Well, Dr. Adela Dukoya joins us now. He's a political scientist to look at, party politics, as we have seen, especially this week. Well, good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Well, it's been a busy moment for politicians in the country. Well, incidentally, the ruling party as well as the opposition party all both had their primaries this particular week. If you were to put everything in perspective, we spoke to Doyo Kupe a little earlier. He did say, well, the process was so smooth and transparent, as we have seen, even though, well, Mrs. Abiola also have been complaining, and we also saw what finally happened. But one key thing we took out of it, and which we shared with Mr. Okupe, is the sportsmanship spirit we have seen, to the extent that those who lost out quickly and very, very fast congratulated the winner. Is this a new trend we're likely to see as we move, or this is what we get to see when it's about primaries?
Basically, political parties, we must know, it's a platform for a mechanism for capture of state power. And political party is supposed to be a mechanism where people of like minds, the same ideology, the same interest, come together to actually struggle for state power. So to that extent, what you expect at the end of the state day is that after contest within the party and different contestation, everybody should come down to accept whoever is the winner to fly the party flag, as long as the process is deemed to be transparent, free and fair. And to that extent, what has happened is in a way is actually reinforcing that to a large extent people are satisfied. And historically too, we equally need to see the paradox that is being set out. Usually it is the progressive so-called, the APC, ACN, AD part, historical family, that you see a situation whereby you don't see party primary, you see the so-called consensus, which is almost amount to imposition. But certain elements and the different social forces that have come together in that party have insisted and have been able to have their way in such a way that for the first time the party is conducting a primary. And you remember too that in Lagos State some few months back there was a movement, the Lagos movement led by Niyi Akishiju. They were actually protesting that this issue of imposition of godfatherism within the party should stop, and people should be allowed to actually select who is going to flag, and that has played itself out even at the highest level of that party. But paradoxically, it is the PDP that is reputed to be much more democratic in terms of internal politics, that for the first time has imposed a presidential candidate on people, because what you have in PDP is not what we used to have. It's much more like an arm twisting. That we must actually note that historical tragedy.
You know, this switching of roles now, the way you highlighted that the tradition we had always seen in the former AD, ACN, AC, and now part of the APC, what is what we have now seen in the PDP. For Dr. Okupe, he said, well, it is only natural that if you are an incumbent and you have shown your intention to go for the next election, they give it to you on a platter.
Why not in the states? You see, the bottom line is that certain elements, the hegemonic element within the PDP are actually in control now. And you have a presidency that within and outside the party, there's this what I would call status panic. The president is paranoid. He's not even sure of even control of the political party. If the president has done so much with what we have been told over the years and things like that, for goodness sake, the least we can have, given the historical current in that party, is just to have a free and fair primary. Obasanjo was an incumbent. He was challenged. So where is Okupe then? People should not assault our sense of history. We are not illiterate in this country. How will somebody tell us it's just natural for an incumbent to be given such blatant this thing? That is not historical truth, even in the context of Nigeria and in the context of the PDP itself. So there's something wrong with that party. There's something wrong with the presidency that cannot face the challenge of our internal democracy. That's what I see.
Can you give an example of what goes on in other, in more developed democracies?
We don't need to go to any more developed democracy. This is Nigeria. And part of the problem we have had is that people try to, when it suits them, they talk about what's happening in developed democracies. When you see them, they talk about something. We are talking about even the PDP itself. Why must they relegate their own history? We've done it over and over again in this country. Why? And that is one of the hallmark of PDP. That for some of us to say, even those who cry they are progressive, in terms of democratic antecedent, they are lacking. And for the first time, they have reversed that. And unfortunately, the party that should be copied, should be emulated, is the one reversing the GI, and that is a tragedy.
Now, let's look at the primaries that have been. Let's leave the presidential primaries. In the other primaries that have held, in PDP, the APC, ABGA, there have been issues about delegates lists being manipulated, fake delegates lists coming out. Now, what does that portend for the elections generally? Would that impact negatively on each of these parties when we come down to the elections?
Yeah, it's difficult to talk on a broad-based spectrum because
if delegates who are supposed to select a candidate are not given the room to select a candidate of their choice, and they have a primary which many have said is a sham. I mean, across the state, in different states, and said it's a sham because their delegates were not allowed to do that. With the delegates, when it comes to the voting proper in next year, do you think it would affect the parties?
I was trying to address that. It's a function of balance of forces. We've seen it in Lagos State. The Tinubu Fashola, this thing. It does not run on the party. It depends on what party structure is different. It's very difficult to generalize. To say because delegates, we're not saying that's good, bad too, you understand? But it's difficult to generalize to say because delegates were denied the opportunity of actually being part of the primary process, that they will necessarily switch or they will not vote. Quite a number of things take place within the political system. There could be a lot of horse-trading, there could be a lot of settlement, there could be a lot of promises and compromises, which we are not privy to. So based on that, it's difficult to predict that this will be the outcome or this will be the ripple effect of that action. But what it must be said is that that is bad. If we say we're running a democracy, we should, and we should equally try to understand why this plays itself out. Most of these parties are actually electoral machines. They are people, straight bedfellows. So you see a situation whereby only election, that's why what you see is that you have more conflicts internally within parties than even between parties, because the parties are electoral machines. Everybody is just struggling to use the party as a means of capturing state power.
Well, let us go over to Taufik Gani. He's the public relations officer for the PDP here in Lagos State, to react to some of these issues. Taufik, if you can hear me now, Dr. Odukoya has said, a whole lot has happened, especially with regard to the PDP primaries. He doesn't think it is absolutely right that the PDP, that had the tradition of always conducting free and fair primaries, would, twist others for not contesting that particular slot with the president.
Not hearing again. Not hearing.
Well, Taufik Gani, I hope you can hear me now.
Good morning, sir.
Well, as soon as we can establish contact with him, he's there, but I hope you can hear me. If you can't, we have Dr. Odukoya here. He's a political scientist, and he's just thwarted the process that brought about the president as the candidate of the PDP. Well, he said, it's against the tradition of the PDP that has always gone out to get into a free, fair process of bringing up a candidate. But for now, some of those who intend to contest that were asked to drop their ambition.
Why is it going and coming?
Well, I think we'll have to get back to him in the course of the program. As you were saying, we hope that Gani should be able to react to that because he's a member of the PDP. But you're trying to paint a picture. We have also seen what has gone down in states. Rivers State with the APC as well as the PDP in that particular state, and we saw what happened here in Lagos State. And some have also said that we are almost getting into the arena, bringing up religious sentiment in places where ordinarily no one would have thought about that. How do you think this will play out in the 2015 election?
Basically, whether we like it or not, religion, indigenship, ethnicity, identity politics, it's actually the characteristics of third world politics. Because rather than talk about social justice, people talk about ethnic justice. And unfortunately too, we've not been able to relate on class line. Like I tell students, your oppressor might be your pastor, your oppressor might be your next your brother. So we should, and unfortunately because of the ruling elite that struggle for power, they've done a lot to actually confuse the ordinary people. And what they do most of the time is to actually ensure that people are not in a position to make decisions based on objective interests. Rather, they mystify the whole process and make it, oh, that person is not from our tribe and things like that. And unfortunately, the ordinary Nigerian has not been so critical to ask yourself. For goodness sake, I tell people, Obasanjo was president of this country for 8 years. Even the road to Otta was not tapped. The Lagos Ibadan Expressway was not. So the issue for us, and that's why what we should emphasize, should not be about where somebody comes from. Should not be about what religion, but rather, what can you do? And that's why we should insist that at all levels, it should be issue-based politics.
Issue-based politics. Sorry, Martha. I think Gani Tafik is back on the line. I hope he can get to hear us now. He's live in Abuja studios. Gani Tafik, we've been speaking with Dr. Odukoya, a political scientist. He has fought the process leading to the emergence of President Jonathan as the PDP candidate. He would have loved to see what the PDP is known for, having a transparent, free-for-all, primaries but for now, somewhere has to bury the ambition, which he said, will amount to arm twisting.
Good morning, Suleiman. I want to commend the doctor for even admitting that the PDP is reputed for being very democratic, especially at the level of conducting primary. I think that is continuing. It is erroneous to want to say that the stance has changed. It is not. For you to bring up a candidate to represent you, you have so many considerations. You must also appeal to the sentiment of the people. And I want to say that PDP remains the only party who has shown in this country today that it believes in nationhood. It believes that everybody must have a sense of belonging. Of course, at our own level, one of the sentiments, and that is what is also working for Mr. President, is that it's from the minority, and we are giving the minority the opportunity to rule this country just like any other person can rule this country. Even if that is sentiment, the party cannot also go outside President Lord Jonathan, because today it remains the best model that the party can put forward in the area of infrastructure, in so many areas. Today, the opposition parties are even confident to go into the politics because they know that if they win elections today, they will be declared winner. This is because the President Lord Jonathan has guaranteed free, fair, credible election in this country. So, and if you look at it, who will come out to say that he wants to contest against a performing president when you know that obviously people even love him, your system even appreciates him? So it will look like you are just wasting your time and money. And that is why at a point in time when people even said that they were coming out to contest, the party did not preclude them. They bought the form, they were allowed. Eventually one of the aspirants stepped down, made a public declaration. The other one did not show up at the primary. Eventually, the party, PDP, remains the only party that is democratic, even at any level, at any program of party, especially primary.